right, so Jim from The Office has written, directed, produced, and starred, thank you very much, remember this time, in his own horror movie. So, the only question that remains is, at any point, does he look at the camera?
So this is a spoiler-filled review of The Quiet Place, and if you haven't seen the movie, you gotta check it out. Alright, you're back, which means you saw the movie, and so basically it's about a family who has to be quiet because there are monsters in the area that they live on, you know, in the woods or whatever, basically in the town.
Yeah, that are blind and stalk them by sound. So we start off with the likes, and what do you got, Portia?
Well, I liked it when that kid got snatched up by the monsters.
At the very beginning, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Okay.
That was pretty cool. So.
Not only was it cool, but it was very effective in establishing right off the bat the tremendous threat of these monsters. In fact, that the movie was not afraid to, you know, sort of take chances.
Yeah, I was like, oh, damn.
Damn, they got the kid right off the bat. You don't really see that in American movies too often. It also did sort of serve the purpose of, you know, dealing with some of the problems later on the family had, the teenage daughter's guilt over it, et cetera, et cetera. But I think primarily it was a, boom, okay, here we are. Let's establish this right off the bat. So that was cool.
That was cool.
I like that. One of the things that I like, and I have to say this is a huge like, because it is so rare, is that for better or for worse, they did something that was original, and they tried it out, okay? And again, you know, you guys know, all we watch is just the same Drek over and over and over again. It's painful, but every so often, something like this comes along. And, you know, when we get to the dislike section, there may be some conversation. But at the end of the day, they at least did something new and creative and original and tried something out. So I do have to give them credit for that. It wasn't like, and I think you could agree, it wasn't like every other sort of, you know, Blumhouse garbage movie that's out there.
You know, I couldn't say it better than myself.
I understood none of that.
I couldn't have said it better.
Ah, that was what you were trying to say in your mumbled speech. I got you. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, those are kind of the big concept things, I think, instead of just saying, oh, you know, we liked it or whatever. Those are kind of the big concept things that we liked about the movie. All right, it is dislike time. I think I have an inkling of yours, which could open a bigger can of worms. So let me just tackle this right off the bat. Big, huge dislike, and you know this has been ongoing forever and ever, is that as soon as you have, you know, big plot holes, it completely destroys the willing suspension of disbelief, and sadly this movie had a lot of them. You know, how did they get electrical power? How did they get pressurized water? You know, how did the monsters not sink in the corn? You know, sadly the list goes, you know, on and on and on, because what I think happened, and honestly, this is another dislike, not as much against the movie, I guess, as opposed to the system, is that, you know, possibly John Krasinski and maybe his writing partner had this core idea of the monsters operating by sound, and the family, and the hearing aid is the ultimate weapon, et cetera, et cetera. And then basically they just kind of had to say, or the studios stepped in and said, well, okay, we like that. Go with that. And they're kind of like, okay, so how do we get to this point? And then honestly someone says, it doesn't matter, just start it, right? Just start it. Don't explain the power. All people care about is this lovely, beautiful family and how terrorized they are. And they're utterly, totally, and completely dead wrong. The box office may prove me to be different, but at the end of the day, that stuff all does make sense, because if you have that stuff, then you have a really, really good movie. Instead, you have people in the audience. We saw with the group, it wasn't just us. The other people were kind of going, okay, like generators make noise. I didn't see any solar panels. I mean, you know, power just as one tiny one, and that was only one of them. And you, like I said, I know you got something, so fire it off.
Well,
Are you hunkering in here?
I don't know what you guys thought. But I really hated the monsters.
Okay, so
So-
you mentioned this before. Why did you hate the monsters?
To me, these monsters look like aliens.
Okay.
Okay, so, but that came up, discussion came up, or the idea of what defines a monster.
Okay.
You know, so I had an example on a monster, Terrifier, our
Yes.
favorite movie. He's a monster, you know, he does monstrous things. So if someone does monstrous things, does that make them a monster? Then it comes to these little creatures in this movie. They look more like aliens. Are aliens monsters? I mean, if these things are doing monstrous things, you know,
Right.
does it make them a monster, or are aliens monsters? I don't know. This
See,
came up, and I want to know. And I didn't really like the alien monster things.
But okay, so in fairness, a couple things. You just don't like aliens.
They were
Right.
like xenomorphs.
They're not like xenomorphs. You just don't like aliens. And second of all, you do have a sound argument on the concept of what makes a monster. And I think it all has to boil down to semantics with words. From the standpoint that at one point in our time, human evolution, I think monster referred to what you are using as a classic definition. Creatures, beings that are not human or beyond human understanding.
Yeah, like that fairy tale monster.
Fairy tale monsters, okay? All right. Then, at some point, we began to have human beings engaging in activities so foreign, so incomprehensible, so not able to be understood by the average human being. That would be your serial killers, your Gacy's, your Mansons and stuff like that. That the only term they felt could apply to them was monster. And so I think that is where we come into a problem. Because you're correct, Terrifier is a monster, but he's not the creature monster.
But then our aliens.
So, then our aliens, that's your next question, and that's a good one. And this is probably where you and I disagree. Yes, aliens, and this is, I mean, this is you're threading a fine line, because you do have a really good point here. We'd love to hear what you guys think on this. Just because it's an alien, does it make it a monster? And does it have, like, what if it's a nice, normal, gray, you know, smooth featured alien? Is that a monster? Is it a monster as soon as it attacks human beings? You know, and you have a very good point, because just because it almost is like it has to look hideous and look bad to be a monster.
Right.
And most aliens that the movies give us look bad and hideous, and so from that standpoint, then I would say yes, aliens are monsters.
And these things look like aliens.
Well,
they look like straight up aliens, like the heads and they just look like aliens.
Well, okay, but do they look like... Okay, so using the actual... and I know we're throwing it on, so hopefully we're keeping you guys interested. Using the technical definition of alien being strange or foreign, but it certainly is, but you're actually referring to like extraterrestrial out of space aliens, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I'm like comparing the features of this monster to like other alien movies, like.
Which is not fair. And it's not fair not because of you.
It's hard.
Wait a minute. It's not fair not because of you, but because of what I brought up earlier. They never established what these were.
I know.
Like, we didn't have any backstory.
No.
You know, we didn't have that they just showed up. If they had even said they showed up on the Earth, then you'd go, okay, aliens.
Oh, I have another dislike too.
Now that we think about it.
I don't know if you noticed. He said he counted like when he had everything written.
Yeah.
He counted and there were like three.
Three
The monsters.
verified, confirmed.
Verified.
Was the word. So it could
Okay.
be more, but he's only confirmed 3
Probably around that area.
around that area.
Because
yes.
you noticed he was like crossing off, like he was trying to get a hold of people, and he was crossing off like Japan.
That was on the short waves. Yeah. He was trying to get a hold of
So-
other humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I guess it's kind of inferring that there's probably other creatures out there.
Lots of other creatures. You know, they were
So,
out in the middle of nowhere. So for there to be 3
So-
creatures in the middle of nowhere,
You
cities-
think there'd be more, right?
No, you don't. You extrapolate out a human population dispersal. Sorry, guys, bear with us. Out in the sticks,
long video.
Yeah, out in the boonies with the farms, you could have 1, 2, 3 people per square mile. In the cities, you could have, you know, 100,000
And where
people.
do these things hide?
They had in plain sight. Again, I don't know because they don't really go into it. It's the writers or the studios made the conscious decision to just say we're going to do this little scary story with this family and forget everything else, which I think, and I think you're confirming, is a huge, huge blunder and huge dislike. All right, it is Pinhead time. This is going to be an interesting one. So we just started off first. Serve it up. What do you got?
Why do I have to go first?
Because that's
Okay, I'll go
things
first.
are done.
I will give it two
Ooh,
pinheads.
two.
For originality, of
Right.
course, and you got to give it to John Krasinski because he was actually a pretty good director.
Man,
You know.
yeah, okay, all right.
And for coming out of The Office and going into something more
Entirely
dramatic
different.
and horror,
Okay.
yeah, kudos to John.
Okay, fair enough.
Even though I'm sad he didn't look into the camera.
We all are. Okay, so this one really weighed heavily on me. It really did because, as I said in the beginning, I absolutely have to give it up for the originality. As you just said, that is golden. It is just so rare. Then I have to fall back on the fact that my God, there was just so much
So many
plot
questions.
holes, so many questions that were not even good questions. So sadly, and I have to fall back on my original concept. Without that, it really just ripped me out of it. So for me, as much as I kind of enjoyed this movie, and I don't think I'll ever see it again, and so for me it's going to be actually one pinhead.
Oh.
I know, that sounds awful. I'd like to asterisk that, saying that everybody should see it, but I have to go with what I go. So your two pinheads, my one pinhead, and that's going to be a 1.5 pinhead movie. Alright, so this one is obviously a big conversation maker, especially in light of the poor showing in the pinheads. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. You know, I could be dead wrong. I don't know. This one's a weird one. That's why I say it's going to generate some conversation. So please, let us know what you're thinking.